Fred Wilson. For those of you not familiar with Fred, he's been a venture capitalist since 1987. He's, I guess, founder and managing partner at Union Square Ventures and also founded Flatiron Partners. He has a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering from MIT, an MBA from Wharton School of Business and University of Pennsylvania. Married, 3 kids, lives in New York City. His portfolio companies that you may be aware of include Twitter, Tumblr, Etsy, Foursquare, and most importantly, he's my partner-in-law, I figured out, because my husband is his partner. So pleased to welcome Fred Wilson to Publishing Point.
Thank you, Susan. It's great to be here. I'm a little intimidated by the fact that Gail has already sent you a draft of her talk that she's doing in a month from now. And as you'll see, I put my talk together over this weekend. So there's clearly other people out there who are more organized and prepared than I am. But anyway, Susan and I talked about what I wanted when I agreed to come talk. Susan and I discussed what I would talk about. And I told her I've been thinking a lot about where technology and content come together. And I, for some reason, found myself talking to a lot of people in the quote-unquote content business recently. There's a lot of big media companies here in New York, and there aren't very many venture capital firms. And so, for whatever reason, I've been invited to talk to a lot of big media companies lately. And what I've told most of them is that I think that being a content company in the digital world is not nearly as scary as being a distribution company in the digital world. And I think largely those companies that know how to find talent, cultivate talent, produce talent, and deliver talent to the marketplace will make the transition from the analog world to the digital world much more easily than companies that have been in the business of getting the produced content through the wire or through the air or some other way to the end user. I think that those businesses are going to be a lot more challenged. And so as I've been talking to media companies about that, it started to occur to me that the intersections of content and technology and the packaging, in effect, of content in the digital world is very interesting. We're at a very interesting time in that place. And if you think about books, for example, the packaging of books has been fairly static for hundreds of years. I mean, yes, the graphics on the cover of the book might be different. The actual technology that binds the pages together and produces the hardback or paperback may have changed a little bit, but the basic packaging of the book hasn't really changed very much. And now all of a sudden we're seeing packaging not just of books, but of all media change very, very rapidly and evolve and go to interesting places that one might not even really imagine. And so I want to kick off this talk with a little bit of a walk through my house that I did this weekend. This is really it in terms of my presentation. So when you rate the presentations between myself and Gail, I'm sure she's going to destroy me. But in any case, I think this will be illustrative. So I took this picture, it's my hand, I took this picture with my BlackBerry, and this is the way I read books today. I've made the move from the printed book to the Kindle, and I really like the ability to navigate around the table of contents. I like the idea that it feels like a web page to me, and that it's hyperlinked, and I can go right to where I want to go, and I don't have to fumble through pages. I like the fact that turning the pages is a very lightweight, push of the next button, and I have found myself reading more in the past 9 months since I got more the past year. Actually, I got this Kindle here at Random House. It was a gift from the Random House team, led by Chris in the back. and well, I guess that was maybe 9 months or a year ago, Chris, right? So that's how long I've had my Kindle, and it's really changed the way I'm reading more, and I think I can read faster, frankly, on a Kindle than I ever was able to on a book. I'm curious how many people here have largely made that transition to Kindle from physical copy?
No.
Excuse me?
No.
Nook. Okay, but Nook's fine too. Okay, so that seems like about 25 to 30% of the audience. And for that group of people, do you feel like you can read more and consume books quicker?
Yes, but I've made a transition back for books that I want to maybe flip back. I find it hard to flip back to a certain page on the Kindle.
So the bookmarking stuff doesn't work for you?
Not in a comfortable, easy way.
Right. So that's
I try not to be hard about it.
So that's the intersection between the content and the technology. And so that's what I think gets so interesting is that it's not the content anymore that you're thinking about, it's the user interface and it's how the bookmarking system works and or doesn't work in your case, and so you go back to the physical form for certain things. So then I put the Kindle down and let's see. Yes, I picked up my iPad. Okay, this is the same book, by the way. Really cool thing, as probably all of you know, is that if you have a Kindle and you have an iPad, you simply download the Kindle app onto the iPad, and now you have all the same books that are on your Kindle on your iPad. That's really cool. My wife and I both like to read, and now we can actually read the same book at the same time without having to buy 2 copies of it. And that's a big deal, right? Because otherwise, she would buy 1 copy, she'd read it, and then she'd give it to me and I'd read it. I think that most people who share books in a relationship or anything have done it that way forever. Well, now all of a sudden you can read it at the same time. You don't have to buy 2 copies to do it at the same time. So that little innovation, if you will, is a big deal in my family. The other thing that I've seen is that my kids seem to like to read more on the iPad than they do on the Kindle. And I don't. I find the iPad too heavy, and I've gotten, the habit of reading on a Kindle. My kids never really got into the Kindle, and they, whether it's that the iPad is cool or whatever, they like reading on this device more. And so I think there's a chance that we might see the younger generation move to devices like this, as opposed to sort of the utilitarian device that.
How old are your kids? How old are your kids?
My kids are 14, 17, and 19. Curious if anybody else has seen that. You've seen that too. That your kids like to read on the iPad better
They
than the
won't
Kindle.
pick up the Kindle. They're younger. They're 10.
They won't pick up the Kindle. Really funny thing that my son did about a year ago when I was here last time. I took the Kindle home. My son said, "What's that?" I said, "It's a Kindle." He took the Kindle and he started doing this. And when it didn't do anything for him, he gave it back to me and said, "Can't use it." So maybe it's just the gesture, right? Again, the intersection of technology and content.